Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to another edition of the Winning Mondays. I don't know about you, but for me, I felt I have not done this for a very long time. It's like I went for a long holiday. I just came back. But I never got. I did not go to any holiday. Just so that you know. But I'm not sure how. I don't know how to explain this. But I have not. It's like I felt like I have not done this for a very long time. How many of you are excited to be here this morning? If you're excited, please press 1 in the chat box. Right, awesome. Only 2% is excited. Right, okay, at least got a few more people that's excited, right? So our goal today is to really have a conversation with our panelists, with 3 regional team members, 3 regional leaders from our panel, to really talk about their ahas and their thoughts about what they observe and what they probably have learned or they are learning through their experience in going through a family reunion. Now, for the benefit of others here who are not clear or are familiar with this term family reunion, every year in the month of February, the entire global family of Keller Williams will gather in a city in the US to gather together and kind of listen to Gary Keller's vision speech, state of the company, to understand where they are as a company. At the same time, a time to network and educate themselves through various breakout sessions and various sessions with keynote speakers and all that. So some of the keynote speakers that participated in the past were like Simon Sinek and all these very famous people that came as a keynote speaker, but they have a lot of breakout sessions. Now, I've personally been to 4 family reunions, 2 physical in person and 2 virtual family reunion. So this is my 4th family reunion, and this family reunion is a bit unique is because they did it in a hybrid mode. They had physical in person, about I think 15,000 people gathered together in Orlando, Florida. And some of us were gathering online. So they had to kind of did a live streaming in every single breakout sessions while people were in person. So it was a very interesting approach, which I have never experienced before. But I think the goal is to bring some lessons back, some thoughts back to some of you guys here today. And the goal is to have that conversation with our panelists who have experienced family reunions. So today we have 3 panelists, 3 people that I've invited as a guest on the show to kind of share their experiences. So the first person we have is Christine Ong, we have Mariah, we have Nicholas. But I want to ask Christine maybe quickly for the benefit of others. Some people may not know you, they have not seen you before. Maybe you can quickly introduce yourself, followed by Nicholas, and last followed by Mariah. So go ahead, Christine.
Hi, everybody. My name is Christine, and I am the Chief Operating Officer for the regional team, as well as the Operating Principal of Market Center 2.
Right. Okay, cool. Thank you. Nicholas, how about you?
Hi, good morning. Nicholas here. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for KW Malaysia.
Right, cool. And Mariah?
Hi, I'm Mariah. I'm the Regional Training Coordinator, just started recently, and I'm from Canada, but I've been living in Malaysia since 2009.
Right, so you're Canadian Malaysian.
Yes.
Right. Okay, I'm going to start with Mariah since we end with you. Mariah, this is your first time experiencing a family reunion. What are some of the observations? What are some of the expectations that you had, and what expectations that you kind of felt that it has met your expectation as you participate in this family reunion?
Well, I was definitely quite excited to go because you guys rave about it so much. And I was hoping to catch like some of the KW culture since I'm quite new here to understand what it's about. And also hoping, I mean, as my role as a training coordinator, I wanted to get some, just some like practical, like, okay, what should I do, right? What's the best way to do training at KW? So I definitely received both of those with like a whole lot more. It really felt like, I think someone mentioned this during the training, during the family reunion. It's like trying to drink from a fire hose. It's just like way too much. I have 6 pages of notes of all the things that I wrote down.
Right. So basically you kind of open yourself up to a huge fire hose of water, and it was overflowing, and sometimes it can be quite what do you call it, too much to take in, right? Because a lot of stuff going on there, right?
Yeah.
Right. Cool. Thank you for sharing that. How about Nicholas? How about you? What's some of your expectation when you join family reunion? How do you feel that the expectation has been met as you participate in this family reunion?
I think similar to Mariah, that this is my first family reunion, and actually, in fact, I don't have much to expect for this family reunion. I just come here with just open mind to just absorb as much as I can. And of course, I hear a lot of hype about this family reunion and check out a lot of videos about what is it all about. There's too many things that too many things that actually attract me to be there. I think one of the things is actually to stay up late night until 6 o'clock in the morning. I think that's the toughest things that I ever experienced so far for at least for 2 to 3 days. Yeah.
Right. So it's something that you saw a lot of stuff going on there, and we'll go deep a little bit about what are some of the learnings as we proceed. Well, how about you, Christine? Christine, this is your 4th family reunion, I believe. We went to 2 in person, I think one in New Orleans, another one in Dallas, and then we had a virtual one last year, and then this is a hybrid one, right? What are some of your expectations? And what are some of the things that you thought that you wanted to learn and you are able to kind of learn from that family reunion when you were there this time?
So this is my 4th family reunion, and because I have experienced it before, in some ways there is the element of looking forward to it, because I know that the sessions at family reunion are usually very inspiring, very insightful. There are a lot of like gems and nuggets of wisdom to take back. However, at the same time, I was also a little bit not sure how it would be, because we knew that it was the first time that it was going to be a hybrid, and I think doing it hybrid can be very tough. Like, you're not sure whether do you focus on the one that is, you know, in person, or the one that is online. So at the same time, I was also trying to manage my expectation. I think to me, having experienced family reunion, I've always thought as this type of conferences and get together, it's a place of learning and relearning certain things, because some things you may have learned before, but then when you come into a session like this, then you realize that you are relearning certain things, and there is like your memory is being refreshed of certain things that you have learned before, but somehow, you know, along the way you may have forgotten. So I think very similar to Nicholas, I was basically really just very open to come, to listen, to hear, absorb, and I think one of the questions was, did the family reunion meet these expectations? And the answer would definitely be yes lah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think it's interesting that you mentioned learn and relearn, because it shows how the organization focus on following models, where that model is kind of fixed in a way, but it's creatively executed. But yet you see consistency in what they're trying to achieve as a company, right? How they run their culture, how they teach about lead generation, how they do so stuff, but it's very consistent. It's not that they're not changing overnight, they're not flipping the coin all the time. So it's interesting to see that. Now, I'm going to stick with you for the next question. There are many general sessions. There were the state of the company. There was the keynote speaker by Sean Accor. What was like one session that really, or one speaker that really stood up to you, and why?
So this question is a bit hard, because there's no one session there's not only one session that stood out for me, and I think Mariah and Nicholas will probably agree with me for this. But so I will just mention 2. So for me, it's basically the leadership session, because I think in summary for me, the leadership session reminded me that when we have the right focus, we will know how to do the right activities, which will then eventually bring the right results. So that was kind of like a summary lah, you know, and I sort of like learned this before, but then it just brought me back to, hey, yeah, you know, this is all you need to do. You just need to have the right focus. So what's the right focus for our organization in this current season of time? So that was one of the lessons for me. I think the other one was the keynote session. I thought the keynote session was very interesting. The topic alone was interesting. The guy himself also is very interesting. Granted, I feel I need to watch that again, because the guy was like Sean Accor was like going, I don't know, he was like really like a bullet train. He was talking really fast. We were trying to capture a lot of things, but he made the session very interesting. And I think that one really spoke to me, and it was really quite an aha moment for me, because he talked about how happiness is the mindset of our journey and not the result of our destination. And that resonated with me because I'm naturally a more pessimistic person. I will tell you that the glass is half empty, not half full, right? When I look at it, that's like the first thing that I see. And many people has asked me before, are you happy in your job or happy doing what you're like currently doing, right? And usually the immediate thought process or the answer that flashes through my head is like, actually, have I achieved or gained a result that I'm happy with, right? But this statement of like happiness is the mindset of our journey really changes the paradigm of thinking and perspective. And it was really quite an aha moment for me, because now the question I'm asking myself is, how can I develop or maintain a happy mindset so that I can work towards or experience greater results in the area of my career lah. Yeah, a lot to learn, but yes.
Yeah, so you found out how, like, you have a different understanding about happiness, and happiness is not an event, it's not an outcome, it's actually a mindset. It's the way we think about how we live our life, how we make a decision to live our life, and the way I'm hearing from you is something that you and I can control.
Yes, definitely. It's a conscious decision that we can make on a daily basis. Yeah.
Like you make it so nice, like we should like play that video and show everyone. How many of you wanted to watch that Sean Accord keynote? If you want to watch that Sean Accord keynote that Christine was talking about his idea, and it's all based on research, by the way, it's all based on data, it's not based on feeling. He was a Harvard Business School, Harvard professor, and he did research about happiness and how happiness impacts success and impacts businesses or impacts people's personal life. How many of you are interested to watch that video? Nobody. How many are interested to watch? You want to watch that again? How many of you are interested to watch that video, right? Like, you don't have to travel all the way to go there, but we are going to find a way to see how we can play that video so that you can understand and you can watch it in a way. And I believe that was really a life-changing. And Gary Keller himself said in the leadership session, it was one of the best presentations he have ever had, have ever watched before. So, by the way, just to share with you, he's paid $50,000 an hour to do that show that day. Just to let you all know that that's the cost of him. So we are trying to see how we can bring that to you guys, that recording, and then we can talk about it. Right. So Nicholas, how about you, Nicholas? What were some of the key speakers that kind of gave you that stood up the most, and why do you think those sessions stood up the most? Which session would that be?
I think I agree with Christine that there is actually no one session that actually really stood up. But if I have to choose one of it, I think it will be the wrap-up sessions where the inspirational morning is. At first, I thought like inspirational morning is just another closing remarks and all. I don't really pay much attention to that. So actually, I so happened to log in a little bit earlier. Then I watched all the playback videos of the previous inspirational morning. I was like, wow, I was so inspired just by watching the previous videos without really expect what to expect on that night. And it would just blow me away. And I think right after the session, I actually texted the group and said like, I'm so to KW. Like, and it's not just about what we do, it's about the culture come alive. Like I'm so excited like to be part of this organization, even just like this my first and second month onto the job, but knowing that this is the culture and this is the way that this workplace is actually moving towards, I'm so excited towards that. And of course, if I have to say something that is really beneficial for the audience today, because you can't experience how excited I am in that inspirational morning. And what are some of the things? Because it's just go beyond KW. It's not just about us, but it's about the community, it's about the world, and how big we can basically look forward to achieve together as a team.
Right. What part of that story, or what part of inspirational morning that gave you that wow aha moment? Like, what was it? Give an example, because what you're telling us is general, but what was some of the examples you saw inspirational morning that gave you that that deduction that this is the culture and this is the way forward that has impacted you? What story would that be as you look at the Inspiration Morning session?
I think it's the whole curations of that entire sessions. Like say for example, like that they actually feature stories that's beyond KWs, right? Like how the agent, this one agent looking for he knew that this family with 13 family members, like two adults and 11 children. So can you imagine, like, to house 13 people in a house and they're homeless and they're staying in the tent, and how this agent go extra mile to just find a home for them. And the best thing is, like, it's not just finding a home for them and just leave them. It's like they really bought a home for them and just hand them the key, and this is your home, and stay here for your Christmas, for your all your celebrations, and make this house your home. Like, it's just like, can't even imagine, right? Buying home for someone and just literally give it, and no ties on it. Yeah.
So there was a big moment. I felt, and I echo what you just said, and how an agent who are successful in their business, but yet they don't stay only that position. They think about how to use the success to help others in the community. And this is someone they don't know. Actually, he doesn't know these people, but he went in and helped them and bought a home. Not only buy a home, I think I remember he renovated the house to make it a room to fit that 13 people, to fit the 13 people in, and gave them the key just like that. And that was very powerful.
Everyone has a room, right? Like this, like, wow.
Yeah. So that was something that amazing. I wonder how many of us can even think about doing that, can even imagine ourselves wanting to do that, right? So that's really amazing. And that gives us a challenge that if someone can do it, so can we, right? So what are we doing about our successes? So thank you for sharing that, Nicholas. And Inspiration Morning is always always cool. And I always feel much more impactful when we are there live in the hall, in the auditorium. It's one of my favorite sessions as well. Thank you for sharing, Nicholas. Now, coming back to Mariah, to you, how about you? What was that one session or that one speaker that stood out to you the most, and why?
Sure. I just wanted to add what you were just sharing. I was so inspired, in our red book, right? They talk about, earn $1 million, net $1 million, all those, right? And then they were saying to give $1 million is the next goal, right? So you even give $1 million, and you also have your own million. So I think that's where all that was coming from. Because he said he regularly buys people houses. It's something that he regularly does. I was like, wow, it's pretty cool. I also was inspired by so many talks. But there was one, just the leadership mega block breakout session or something. It was just super relevant to me because they talked a lot about training. So they gave really great practical advice. So they were saying, like, okay, go and talk to your agents, your top agents, find out what's happening in the field and curate content that's really relevant for them, And they were like, in every training, you need to bring that engagement, activities, action, and to promote more of like facilitation type of learning and not just the lecture style. They said lecture is good. It should be like 50% lecture, 50% facilitation, games, activities, and all that. So I thought that was a great idea. They mentioned also there's, KW University has a train the presenter program that's very good. And they were saying that actually every year, every team leader, every trainer should take this course. So, I think that's another idea I want to, consider. And they were saying that, people need to hear things 7 times before you really like take it in. And so they were saying that, even Ignite, of course, it's the first class, right? The basic class, but they were saying you need to tell the story of Ignite differently so that even your senior agents can get something, because actually you need to take it many times before you can really actually put everything into practice. And and also tech, they were saying, since we're a tech company, right? And like technology is really the secret to all the success. We can put the tech into every training. Like, no need to have separate tech trainings all the time, but we can also have just include it everywhere as much as we can, so that everyone's comfortable, they know how to use the tech. So I thought it was quite a lot of so many ideas.
I echo what you said. I was actually watching one of the trainings about technology, where Chris Cox, I think Matt Green, we're talking about lead generation, how, and I think that one and Charles was the one that shared that with me, and I thought that was a good session that we should bring to everyone here as well, finding the to play the recording now that we have the platform for 2 months. But they think about how to incorporate business education, like you educate based on the business, and also how do you implement the business with the things that you do, which I think was interesting. And I echo what you say, that how some of us need to be repeated, we need to go through some repetitive processes, and say 7 times, right, before we can really truly grasp it as we do it. So thank you for sharing that. I'm going to stay with you for a while, Mariah, and
Sure.
my next question would be, like, what were there some ahas in FR 22 that shifted your mindset about your personal life, your journey, your role in this? And I know you're very new in this role, right? But what are some of the things that shifted your mindset as you watch, as you sit back and observe the whole family reunion?
So there was, I love this one phrase. It said that people have a desire to belong. People have a need to belong, like in a group and all that. So that was actually in the leadership thing. But then it kind of ties together with what the Sean Accor. He had so many amazing things to share. So don't know about you, but sometimes I will tend to feel like I need to solve my problems myself. I need to deal with my own problems by myself, figure it out, right? And but then I can also get overwhelmed, right? So one of the Sean Accor's sharings was about the hill study. I don't know if you remember. He was saying, when if you take one person and you have them look at a hill, like the green hill, right? And then you ask them how high is the hill, and you compare it to if they're with a group of people and you look at the same hill. They said when the person is by themselves, the hill will look 20 to 30 times higher than when they're with other people in a group. And he was saying that this is like literally your brain sees the problem differently. When you have people with you, it will look easier, it will look more manageable. And so he was saying this is true in life. Like when we are facing a challenge, if we are in a group, we have people around us that are supportive and all that, we can face the challenges much better. And so I just felt like this will be a key, I think, in my role as training coordinator, with the rest of the regional team. But I think for everyone in KW, we can all take advantage of this, grab hold of this to work in teams. And just that 1 + 1 = 3, that kind of thing, or 1 + 1 = even 11, we can increase our ability, So
Right. So that shifted your mindset in thinking about, like, I shouldn't do this by myself.
Yeah.
If I can't do it by myself, I should never think about doing things by myself, because no one succeeds alone. So I should be thinking about how do I build a community around me and look at this issue and see how can we solve it together.
Yeah. I didn't know it's actually like physically, I mean, maybe we had the experience. I had the experience before, but I didn't know it's like literally our brains are different when we're in a group. It's quite amazing.
Right. Yeah. And that one is done. It's a very famous research paper called the HEAL. So you all can Google the HEAL research, right? It talks about how people look at things differently when you are alone and when you are together. And it's based on research. It's not based on a field thing. It's not based on observation. It's based on research and studies done by people who are studying human psychology or positive psychology. So thank you for sharing that, Mariah. How about you, Nicholas? What is that one thing, or what are some of the things that you have learned or that you have influenced you to shift your mindset throughout the whole family reunion?
I think the biggest aha for myself would be this phrase, right? Is always who, not how. I think often when I face and issues, when I face challenges ahead of me, I always think that how can I actually solve it? And that session actually rephrased the entire frame of my mindset. It says that actually when I have the problem, my first question shouldn't be how do I solve it? The first question should be who should be the one who solve it. It might not be me. No, I don't have to be one who solve it. And who is the person that I can actually look out for to actually solve it? And immediately, because of the recommendations of this book, Who Not How, I immediately actually go and read the book, and I'm now on my first chapter, on the second chapter. I'm so excited diving deep into like how I can actually apply this concept in my day-to-day things. Like the first challenge for myself, ask who instead of how.
Right. Why do you think that was such an important shift in their mindset? Because I think human nature, we are default to try to solve the problem ourselves. We have to figure out what's the best way. But here is teaching us who is the person that could help us, or who is the person that could do the work, or who is the person that I could learn from, right? Rather than how I can do it by myself. Why do you think this is an important shift for yourself personally, and also for all of us to think about the who and the how thing?
It's very important because like once we identify the who, the how will come, right? Instead of we trying to figure out, say for example, if I'm not good in certain skill, I can actually go and learn it like over YouTube. I can actually hire, if I hire a coach, it's already a who, because when I hire a coach to actually coach me, actually shorten my entire time of learning. Say for example, like if I learn swimming by myself, I can actually just jump into the water and just swim, right? Actually, it took me a lot of time to actually learn that, perfecting that skill. But if I have a coach with me, actually I shorten that entire learning process probably by 10 times. So it's very exciting to, especially what would be the kind of learnings that I could apply over here, instead of like, say for example, for an agent, instead of doing things by yourself, like think of like who can actually like getting an ISA, right? It could cost you money, but that money actually save you time of doing that.
Right. Yeah. Right. And it's actually if I look at it this way, it's actually a smarter way of living your life and doing your business. It's a smarter way because you accelerate forward faster when you go and look at who, or you go and talk to who, because that's the first thing we should be doing. Because if you don't do that, we kind of spend too much time, and time is also money. So sometimes we think by paying someone to do it, it's expensive, but actually by doing it ourselves, it's actually more expensive.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
it's a mindset shift. It's really a mindset shift, right? So thank you for sharing that. I ordered a physical book because I'm a physical book person. And Gary Keller has been sharing this all these past few months, talking about the book. Is called Who Not How, right? If you all want to go and read the book, go buy from Book Depository or something like that. I'm still waiting for my book. It's called Who Not How. It's a great book. I'm thinking that's my number one book to finish this year, because I feel that that's my challenge as well. I always try to solve things by myself. So I encourage everyone to do it. Thank you for sharing that.
We should actually have this like book sharing time, like especially on this itself, right? It's like really great book. Yeah.
Right. It's a major mindset shift. Who, not how, right? What do you ask first? What question? Which question comes first, right? There will be a total session about just that itself. I can see that as a training session just for that. How about you, Christine? How about you? What are some of the ahas from FY22 that have shifted your mindset in your personal life, in your role, in your business? Well, what have shifted for you?
So this one is quite interesting for me because I think all this while I've always thought that, I think I have a pretty okay mindset, when it comes to my role, being in this industry and working together with this team. But I think that sort of like changed when I started this dual role of, being a part of the regional team as well as playing leadership role in the market center. And when it really took place, when it started, I realized it's actually not as easy as it looks, trying to navigate wearing two different hats, right? Because they're two very different roles, and sometimes you need to find the balance of like, when do you change that hat? And at what point do you think like an OP, and at what point do you think like a COO, for that matter, right? And both roles, their functions are very different. One role, you have to be more big picture, a bit more forward thinking. You hold people accountable, not necessarily do so much. But then the other one is very operational centered. So it's very kind of like on opposite spectrums. So when I have to share, to give you a bit of background, when I first accepted this OP role, I had never shared with John also, so it's the first time he's hearing it, okay? So when I first accepted this OP role for Market Center 2, I have to admit that I went in with it already listing like 101 like reasons how I could fail in that role or what could go wrong, right? But that's like my natural instinct of like wanting to be careful, wanting to be cautious. So if I know that this could go wrong, therefore I know how to avoid it, right? So that was my personal limiting belief. because I tend to be more pessimistic, so always look at like, what would be the most extreme that could go wrong. But I think really, again, like I said, going through a family reunion this year really reminded me that all I needed to do was to have the right focus for these two roles. So my OP role, have a right focus for it. My COO role, have a right focus for it. And both focus may be different, right? But for me, is how then can I identify what is the right focus as an OP and right focus for me as a COO? Because when I'm very clear with that, then that would lead me to knowing what the right activities would be, which then eventually through time, we will see the right results lah. So my reflection question the past like 1 week has been like, so then what is my right focus in this current season of time for my role as an OP, and what is the right focus for my role as a COO? Yeah.
What was that trigger in the family reunion that triggered you to think this way? Like, who said something? What was something was said? I'm sure there was some stuff that was said there. There were conversation that was there that kind of triggered this whole thought, right? This whole chain of thought. What was it that kind of triggered that?
I don't think it was like a particular like sentence that was said or a statement that was made. I think it was based on my observation on the conversations that was taking place, with Gary Keller and the panelists that was on stage, with what's his name, Jason Abrahams, right, and even Jay Papasan. I think when they talked about things, it's just overall like what kind of like the for me the theme I would say, or the fundamental things that they're actually saying is that, hey, even in whatever that single agent is doing, even whatever that team agent is doing, even whatever that particular team leader is doing, right, at the end of the day, right, what make them successful, what make them where they are, they all begin with having the right focus. So that was what I saw, the common traits, the common things, and actually I also saw this in the workshops, in the breakout sessions, right? That took place. So to me, it was kind of like a common theme that sort of like was like, like just being emphasized lah, for me.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like you're blending into the whole thing, so just like that. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. So based on your observation, based on you now having that reflection that you're going through, I'm sure you're reflecting a lot of things, and what do you think a focus would look like? As an example, can you give an example of like, what do you think based on your role as an OP right now? What's the focus like? What do you think are potential focus that you need to put attention to as your role? What would that look like?
Right. So when we talk about focus, we also need to be in that sense, how do you say, you need to also be realistic, right? About when you talk about focus, it should be together with a time frame. So let's just say if I want to drill down deeper, let's just say I talk about just this year alone, maybe my focus would be to strengthen the market center leadership, because strengthening the market center leadership then would also ensure that I hire the correct person, or I have the right person playing the right roles that should be, in the market center, right? And then we know that when you have the right people, being in the right role, then definitely the right results will eventually come through time, right? So that would be one example of that. I mean, pertaining my OP role, yeah.
Right, and that's another classic example of who, not how, right? It's just
yes,
it's like focusing on who, because the who is the one that will drive the how, and they will bring the results. Sometimes you are focusing on firefighting so many things, right? You're going to solve so many problems, and we have to realize that in life there will always be problems, but there are just some problems that we shouldn't solve right now. There's some problems that we should solve right now, but some problems we shouldn't solve right now, and figuring out what that matters. So thank you for sharing that. And I think that's very important as an agent today in your business. If you are having a lead generation problem, then you solve that problem first. And it's normally who you talk to solve the problem, not by yourself. Who do you talk to, who you have conversations with? And I encourage people who look at other successful agents and you go and look at them and just give them a call, what can you learn for 20 minutes to understand what they are doing at a high level that's driving the leads, right? So that's an example of an agent today. If you need to be clear what is the issue that you want to resolve that will bring you the results that you want to achieve. Because some problems that you solve don't bring any result. It's solved, but it doesn't bring impact, right? So that's really good. So having that focus is important. Thank you for sharing that.
Can I also say that sometimes our focus is wrong. Sometimes we focus on the problem rather than what can I do to help the problem, right? So that and that's a normal, natural human tendency to always focus on the problem. But when we focus on the problem too much, then it becomes like, you know, you go through the whole cycle of like being very victimized and being helpless, right? But if we channel our energy and focus on, okay, I know I have this problem, but what can I do to, you know, like what's my next action? Then your entire perspective shifts and changes. Yeah,
absolutely right. One more thing to add: some of us also focus on how to not have problem, and that itself is a problem because there's no such thing as no problem. Because problem exists, challenges exist. The goal is not how to not get it, is to focus on the right challenges to solve, on the right stress to have. Like we try to avoid stress, good luck. It's a higher stress.
You have more stress.
You have more stress when you try to, right? You're absolutely right? So then you figure out how do you embrace, and Sean go talk about the whole thing about stress, right?
Yes.
You figure out how like stress is good for you, like how do you recalibrate the way you think about that. So yeah, so thank you for sharing that, Christine. Nicholas, I'm going to come to you now and ask you this next question. What are some of the things that you have learned and you decided to do something about it? Like, what are some of the learnings that you have learned so far in FR and then you've decided that you're going to do something about it, you're taking action about it?
I think one of the things that I learned, and I would basically going to take actions on that, it would be speed up the technology adoptions in KW, like because I'm in the sessions and I've actually exposed so much into like how great this will be, basically an addition to the community, to the agents, to all the KW Malaysia's associates. And I find that I've not been doing like, and I have to really bring this out to everyone for them to really understand the technologies space, the layout, and also what we have actually prepared for the development ahead for everyone. And so that everyone actually know that we're dead serious in the technology as a technology company, and we have become mind and kind of stuff. So far, I've not come to a conversations with anyone who actually seriously treat this as an important and core things yet. So I think that is one thing that I really desire to bring this out.
Right. So it's kind of really realigning your thoughts about how can we at a higher level bring more adoption and help agents change their life through technology, right? And go through that. And then as you see the implementation of how some of these agents go out there and share stories, how they know. I was very there was this session that was done by Chris Cox, and he interviewed this agent, and the agent shared something very interesting and said that the way that we treat internet leads or Facebook leads, the reason why it's all down to two things. There's no such thing as a bad lead. It's about bad timing and bad attitude to the lead, right? Yeah. So the human behavior
and the process,
and build a system and a process to support your business. Just don't think about. So that's the attitude part that we need to change. And I think, Nick, you are probably triggered to think about how can you help shape that behavior, shape that thinking, right?
How to actually put the process and the system in place. Say, for example, just leveraging on what you have actually shared just now, right? They actually shared, they actually did 13 months studies of these leads that actually come in. And eventually they found that for Facebook and also Google, they actually have the same closing. But it's just that they have a different timing of closing. Say, for example, for Facebook, it actually took them average of 103 days for a deal to close. And for Google, it actually took them about 290 days. So say, for example, if we have a system and processes that only play for 200 days, So we will then think that Facebook is a good lead, but Google actually give me a bad lead. But it's actually not about a good or bad lead. It's about that, do we actually have a process in place that we actually can nurture 365 days? If we have a process for 365 days, then we will be able to gauge that both Facebook and Google actually have the same closing ratio. Right? I think that's very important in terms of shifting our mind on how we treat every single lead. Say, for example, if you want to market this particular property and you want to hit the leads at that time and want to close it at the time, actually, that's not the way they're actually supposed to look into perspective on leads. We're actually supposed to look at them and find if that's not the property that they want, but then how do we nurture them for the next property that they want to buy, that you're always on top of their mind. So that's very important. There's actually a lot of shift in terms of mindset. And your database is data bank, it's going to give you money, and you have to have the CRM, and you have to put everything in context, in command, in order to scale it. If you still having it in your phone book and not trusting the system to actually do it for you, you will lose out big time. Yeah.
Right. And that's how I observe. My observation of agents is, because I started 18 years ago, right? Very young. I started when I was 5 years old. So did real estate for 18 years. So, but during my time, agents were, the only way we get leads is star paper. You call 7692020 and you put an ad, you go to a public bank, you pay 21 ringgit, you get the lead, you get an ad up. And when the lead calls you, they go for viewing straight away. The buying process starts. But that was the behavior of the consumer then, because there was no online research. That was how search started. They drive around, look at signboards and all that. But today, the search of property from consumers starts way earlier from the time they're ready to buy. And that was what I understand from the whole session, that someone who's thinking of moving house will think ahead right now because they like to plan. And the ability to plan exists now because of technology. I can think through, I can research, I can search through. So that's how I think the behavior of consumer have changed. But the challenge I see is some agents struggle to change their behavior to match the behavior of the consumer. With the cycle of them buying is longer. So the expectation of getting a lead now and want to close today, that is the exception. That's the expectation of that's a bad lead because I can't close it today. Right? Or that's a bad lead because they don't want to buy this property. But then we understand that actually consumer want to search and look at options before they buy. Right? So I think the whole thing is changing, and I'm excited, Nick, that you're on board now, trying to help us to figure out what's the best process and system so that we can stay in touch with our consumer throughout the whole time frame where they are searching and they are thinking about buying. And when they are ready to buy, that we are the next person that they call, right? That's the idea, that's the goal. Thank you for sharing, Nick. How about you, Mariah? What are some of the things that you have learned from the whole FR and you are thinking of executing and taking action about it?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. Honestly, I have so many ideas for training and I really don't know where to start, but I'm looking forward to our regional planning retreat this week. I'm hoping as a group we can figure out where to start. But personally, there is one thing that really just struck me very deeply. It's actually, just this, I think it's like one of the core things in KW I've seen in the book everywhere. Just that being 100% consistent with your processes, like those daily activities, those weekly activities, if you're really consistent, big results will come over time, right? Like we have to have that long-term mindset, and be patient and be consistent. And I actually heard this from William Goh in the training just a few days before, and then I heard it again at family reunion. I found this super inspiring. I've been telling everybody that we tend to overestimate what we can achieve in 1 year, but we underestimate what we can achieve in 5 years. So I feel like it's the same thing, right? Because we will get very excited, we want to do big things, and then we're like, oh, it's so difficult, I give up. But if we do those small things every day, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, they were saying you can do anything in 5 years if you plan ahead. You can just achieve the most amazing things. So I want to have this view for training, for everything, in KW. Yeah.
Right. So it's the mindset of focus, breaking down the big goals into small steps, right? Yeah. And being consistent in doing the small steps. And I hear Gary say this a lot in all his podcasts and all that. And he said one thing that I remember until today. He said success is actually very boring.
What is it?
Success is a very boring thing because it's about repeating things that work at a high level consistently. It's about being consistent about those small things. So as an agent today, I can imagine number one thing is, if you have a listing problem, you need to be always churning out best listings every day, because the news is, the reality is there's never going to be enough listing one, because there's always new, better listing coming out every day. There are always best listing that's repriced every day. There's always owners that needs to sell urgently every day that's popping up. And if you don't do those activities consistently, you won't get those owners. Like, you can imagine, like, and some of the agents I coach, I tell them this thing. I think, like, if you just have a goal every week to find 5 listings that's priced correctly, I guarantee you will change your business forever. If you just consistently think about what are the things that you need to do every day or every week to get 5 listings that is priced correctly, that is priced to the market or priced ahead of the market, you will be very successful because you're consistently doing the small things, right? So Mariah, thank you for sharing that. And I think that's important to think about. How can we start small, think big, grow deep, right? How do we think about think big, aim high, and you act bold and you behave? It's a behavior pattern, right? It's a behavior that determine our action, that determine our results, right? I think that's what I'm hearing from you. Great. Christine, how about you? What are some of the things that you think that you would want to implement or take action from what you have learned from the session so far in FR?
Yeah, I just want to like echo what John said about how Gary Keller said that success is a boring thing, but consistency is what will help us master certain things, right? That's why you call it mastery, right? I remember asking my Muay Thai teacher, sort of like complaining and said that, oh, I can't, like, I take lessons so long. Why sometimes I come, I still can forget certain things, right? Or like, you know, the form is off or the movement is wrong, but I take class from you so long already. You know, how come I'm still like that, you know, kind of a thing. And he was telling me that he said that in order for him to be good so that he can enter into a competition, he basically laid down to me what how many hours he practices, right? And one of the actions was to just punch the bag, right? And there's only like 2 movements, right? And sometimes you have to do it for like, you know, like hours straight, and then maybe like certain breaks in between, right? But then that reminds me that, hey, you know, all these sportsmen, the only reason why they can be really good at what they do and win gold in Olympic, you know, for example, it's because sometimes they practice, do the same thing over and over and over and over again. And I was thinking, if I were to do that, I think I would end up not liking the sport or end up like just not wanting to, like, you know, like do this, because to me, it'll be very, very boring, right? But it's exactly what John has said. If you just be consistent, eventually you will master it, and you will win gold for your real estate business, right? Yeah.
So, it won't be boring if you want to be a gold medalist in Olympic. It won't feel boring, right? It feels boring to you because that's not what you want.
That's not what I want. Yes, definitely.
You just want to punch someone out of the blue and all that. But being gold medalist is not what you want. But if you want to be a gold medalist in Olympic, you will embrace this mentality. You embrace this mindset. So, but what else? What is it that impacted you that you will take action right now?
Yeah, so for me, it's not one thing that I have started, but I think it's just one process that I usually go through whenever like I attend a class or I attend a training or a conference, and this one process usually encompasses just 3 very simple things. Number 1 is to identify like what are my next steps. But in this case, for family reunion, it's very simple. Identify what is my one focus for my OP role as well as my COO role, right? Write them down. Why I write them down is because sometimes when I identify a lot of things that I want to do. Again, like sometimes, you know, after you come up from a high of a conference, you have a lot of like creative ideas, or you have a lot of things that you feel that is good, that it's great, that yes, I can do this, I can do that. But writing it down will help me then say that, okay, this is too much. This is like, I cannot be doing all these things, right? Then that gives you like you go through the process of like reading, eliminating, and then streamlining things, right? And then the last one is to share with someone to keep me accountable. Because if it's only something that I know about, maybe in 1 month's time, my focus may be off and there's nobody to sort of like bring me back in and say, hey, I thought, you said that this should be your focus. I noticed and observed that that has not really been the case, right? So yeah, just these three things that I do that kind of sums it up in this one process. Identify, write them down, and share with someone.
Right. So what was that one thing you identified so far that you must do, and like what's that one thing that you must do right now?
So for me, is it my OP role or my COO role?
Yeah, whichever
COO
role, whichever, like just an example of that one thing that you decided that this is a non-negotiable, is going to happen.
Right. So I think when it comes to, I'll just share with my OP role, because I feel that there's a bit more things that I need to do there. So in my OP role, one of the things that I identified that I really need to do is to really look into the leadership level of the market center. And that is really the focus for this year. Now, what do I do? Well, I think that what are the activities, and how do I connect with them? Then, of course, then that would be like a separate list, right? But I'm very clear that in my mind, that level of leadership and people needs to have most of my time and focus in that market center for at least for the next 6 months, right? So I have identified that, and I'm slowly going into that. Okay, so then what do I want to do by focusing on this? Then there'll be things like 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah.
Right. So when you identify those things, basically it's about allocating time, right, for these conversations, right? How has that helped you to plan your time moving forward right now?
So it has actually helped me to identify what are some meetings or meetups I need to have with them, and what are some conversations I need to get involved with them, and what some conversations that I can actually let go. Because even as an OP role, I cannot be micromanaging, right? There must be some element of trust given to them. But I think by doing this, it helps me to identify, okay, like my presence is necessary in what type of conversations, in what type of meetings, and what, okay, I can just sort of like hands off. And then of course, the next step would be then time blocking it, because the time block is very important. Because if you don't time block, then at the end of the day, it's like you just want to do it, but you may forget, right? So for example, one of the things is I've already told some of my leaders in that market center that, hey, I want to meet you on a monthly basis. It can only be half an hour or 1 hour, but every month, it's just me and you, like, let's go dating, kind of thing, like, yeah.
Right. So putting that in a calendar and make it clear to them that this is a non-negotiable, right? And you yourself also say it's a non-negotiable. Once I put it in the calendar, it will exist. And the challenge is sometimes we don't put it in the calendar. We use the calendar as when we have an appointment to put in. But by doing this, right, it's that we are putting in the calendar to plan our time so that we put things that we think that if we take action on those things that gives us the best result, it should be in our calendar consistently. It should be in our calendar. That's called time blocking, right? So thank you for sharing that. I want to stay with you for a while, Christine, and as we come to the turn of the hour, and you know that we had about probably, I think, 30, 40 people participated in Family Reunion this year. What are your encouragement? As we are going to have more family reunions every year, and someone is asking, Joanne is probably asking us, are we going to have a Family Reunion Malaysia version? Stay tuned. We might have something similar coming up this year, depending on what the situation is. And you'll be surprised, there may be people flying in from our overseas coming in to join as well. But we are seeing what's the progress and all that, seeing how it goes. But for those that didn't attend Family Reunion, right, there's Mega Camp coming up in August, right? What are your advice, those who have never attended a Mega Camp or Family Reunion? Why do you think it's something that is relevant? Because there's that mindset, it's all Angmo, it's all American, it's not, maybe not relevant to my business or whatever. But what are some of your advice to our audience here who have not heard, and maybe Mega Camp in August is something that they might want to join virtually, because before the pandemic, all this was in person. There was no opportunity. The only way we can do this is to fly 40 hours. I always tell people you have 5 meals and three movies and 5 meals, and you will reach your destination. And then you got jet lag, and you have to pay a lot of money to attend. You have to pay the entrance ticket, you have to pay the air ticket, you have to pay the hotel and all that, right? Probably costs us 10,000-15,000 per person going to this event. But now, for only about $100 or $120, you can join us online. But what are some of your encouragement and what are your observations? Why do you think this is something that I think will bring benefit to the agents or to the people watching today? What would your advice be?
Yeah, so I think that I think one thing is that because you really get to learn a lot in a platform like this. I think things like Family Reunion and Mega Camp, they have different kinds of content, and the speakers or the keynote speakers that they invite, it's always different, right? And you not only learn from the speakers in KW RI, but also from the keynote speakers that they invited, and it really helps. I feel like it like I think someone just now mentioned, like kind of like a boost, like, you know, like, yeah, we need this boost, we need this jab, you know, like you take this jab and then suddenly you are alert, and you know, and I feel that is what Family Reunion does for you. But I think aside from that, if you get to experience it in person, then you also get to really experience the culture of it generally, because you are there, you can feel it, and you can see, and then at the same time you get to network with different people as well. Honestly, I'm usually not the networking kind, like I won't like volunteer myself, go for this event, you know, go for that party. But even on this platform, actually there are people who will connect with you, write you email because they saw you know, as one of the participants, and maybe you're doing similar things, for example, and then they will just reach out and say that, hey, you know, like I just noticed that there's a KW Malaysia. I thought I just wanted to connect with you, to right? They'll just send you an email, and that's is a good platform to network, to get to know other agents who may be doing similar things like you, are focusing on similar sphere of things, right? Because you will never know, maybe in the future there is an opportunity to collaborate, to cross-sell, right? To do something together. It may not be now, but in maybe in a couple of years time, right? So yeah, I would encourage you all to sign up, especially now that there is the online version, which is a lot cheaper. I know for some agents, they're like, like, wow, times 4 point something, you know, even 129 is times 4 point something. So my suggestion is that if you know that this is an expense, that there's something that you're going to be spending on, maybe start saving now, right? If you know that Mega Camp is in August, it's going to be this much, right? Just start putting aside a little bit of money every month, so that when the time comes, then you can afford to pay for it. But definitely we encourage you to experience it at least once in your lifetime. Yeah.
Right, I agree. And the way you save money, I give you some ideas. You cut 2 Starbucks drinks a week, a month, or maybe 3 Starbucks drinks a month for the next 6 months. You probably end up with 500 ringgit to pay for it. It's just a mindset shift, right? It's the way you look at it, right? Like if it costs probably 2 to 3 Starbucks a month, I just have to cut that, and you have the money to go for this event, right? So I will encourage. Thank you for sharing that. How about you, Nick? What are some of your encouragement? Why do you think this is going to be good for the agents?
I think this is a must-attend event for everyone. Why they actually say so is, imagine that now we only have 30-40 of us actually attend this, and this is kind of impact that we actually bring in, right? Imagine 300-400 of us actually attended this together. You know, the amount of learnings that we have is enormous, and the amount of sharing, and because hearing from us is never as good as actually experiencing it firsthand, right? I experience, because like when I experience going through burning the midnight oil, when I experience like really wanting to learn at that hour and having all this conversation, it's important to have a group of people doing it together, right? The impact of 30, 40 people in the chat group, right? Imagine we have 300, 400 people in the work chat and we have been talking about it. And everyone just share about one of their learnings on that sessions, right? We will have one whole year of materials or learning and training to be already curated. And it's about like investing in ourselves, right? If you want to upskill ourselves, we want to go to another level, we always need to learn from the best. And this is where the best gather united.
You are right. And it's all about, and the people there are, in my opinion, is world-class. You want to learn about the best about real estate, about life, about business, right? That's, to me, world-class event going on there. It's like world-class. And for that small amount of money, yeah, that it should be something that you should invest in. I totally agree, Unique. How about you, Mariah? What are some of your encouragement to our audience here who have not experienced this, and why would you think it's important for them to experience this?
Okay, honestly, for me, the coolest part was seeing, when I see all the countries that KW is in. It's unbelievable. I mean, I don't know if everyone knows, right? It's in more than 50 countries, you know. It's crazy. And a lot of them were physically there, and a lot of them are also online, whatever. But it's very inspiring to see that you're part of something that's huge. It's around the whole globe, and there's people all talking about the same book, you know. They're all in the same mindset and trying to, you know, have this positive mindset and do these things every day. And yeah, it's very inspiring to see all these different nations, all just like us, you know, just maybe a few years in, or even just, you know, a few months in, trying to adopt this. Yes, it's an American thing, but you can, I mean, I don't know if I'm the one to say this, but clearly I think it's not that difficult to just bring it into the Malaysian context. It's not that difficult. They have very similar experience, right? They're just humans. We're all humans, right? All wanting to be successful, wanting to be happy, wanting to belong and do things that are inspiring. We all want the same things in life. Right. So I felt it's a great community. So if you're going to do it online, the only advice I give is take a lot of naps. take a nap in the daytime before, so you can stay up the whole night.
Right. Yeah, and I love it when you say it's all everyone gathering together to figure out how can they be the best version of themselves. Yes. And that's a human thing. It's not an American thing. Just so that it's just so happen it started in America. The founder and the movement started in America, but the goal is to how can we calibrate ourselves to be the best version of ourselves in whatever we do, from family, life, and business, right? And that's the whole movement. That's really about the movement like that. And I want to share a quick story to end this session today. And I thank you, Mariah, for sharing that about how, even in the area of culture, how do people show up? Now, all of us know that Ukraine and Russia is going through a very challenging moment, right? They're at war right now. And just so that you all know, a big percentage of the technology developer and the technology engineers are from Ukraine, right? And 3 to 4 weeks ago, when KWRI heard about this, they began to figure out how to mobilize and move them out of the country to safer places.
Wow.
And then we have KW Romania, KW Czech Republic, right now is trying to help all these people to be refugees in their country. And that's a way, and it's not American, guys, it's about being better human beings the way we can. And it's just what Mariah is sharing. And because it's impacting our business as well, it also impacts those lives who are there. And this is an example of how we move as a global company to shift and bring the best version of ourselves to support our communities and our businesses. So I highly encourage everyone to go and watch that session. In Mega Camp in August is coming up soon. I think it's $129 US per person. I would highly encourage you guys to find the best way to watch. I think it's only 3 days, if I'm not mistaken, Mega Camp this year. It's only 3 days. We will share more information with you as we have it. So I hope this will give you a perspective of what we have learned in Family Reunion, and also motivate you to participate the way you can in either Mega Camp or Family Reunion. Before we end, I have got a quick announcement. Can I have the announcements up quickly? Right. Just to be clear that the regional team, all of us in the regional team, will be in a planning retreat tomorrow. We are all going to lock ourselves up for 2 days so that we focus all the learnings we get from family reunion and realign and figure out what's the best way for us to bring more value to every agent in this system. At the same time, maybe might have some Muay Thai challenge with Christine that she's learning to perfect her form. Maybe we all become the sparring partners with her now that we know that she's really into Muay Thai. But anyway, so we'll be doing that for 3 days. So we will not be able to respond as fast as we can. So please understand that we are away for 3 days and be back on the 4th of March. Back to we'll be all going to somewhere and we're going to hike somewhere in a mountain and look at a hill and see how we can all conquer the hill together, right? So yeah, that's the next announcements, please. We're going to have new value stories. You will notice that we are having some new value stories to share with consumer, to share with agents, and to share with your friends to help you build your growth share, or to help you communicate to your clients what we are and what are we becoming. So I encourage all of you to take advantage of this value stories that's uploaded every week. I think it's 2 to 3 of them every week being uploaded. So use it as a touch point to touch base with your clients, at the same time with your friends who are in the industry, that maybe you are just one message away from helping them change their life and their business, right? So I just wanted to encourage everyone to do that. Right, before we end, let's go around the table here, and what are some of the last advice or some last thoughts that you want to share from family reunion? So I'm going to start with Christine. What are the last thoughts and last things that you want to share to everyone that we forgot to ask you?
I wanted to say like how everybody keeps thinking that being a part of KW is very Angmo, it's an American thing. I like the thought that came to my mind was that, hey, it's actually not an American thing, it's a KW thing, and we are part of this family. I think the more you immerse yourself with the culture and understand what they're doing, you will realize that the challenges that they face is very similar to what we face. And maybe John and I know that is because we get to be on calls where sometimes the leaders, the leadership on that level share the same sentiments of what they are going through, right? And at the end of the day, the things that they are teaching is really concepts and fundamentals that is really applicable to businesses anywhere part of the world. So yeah, that's I feel that's a mindset that we should have. It's not an Angmo thing, but it's just a KW thing, and we are very privileged to be a part of this this family. And I think the last thing I wanted to say was that I think in life, no matter how old you are, there's always something to learn, which is why I would encourage you all to attend family reunion if you do get a chance, or mega camp, which is the upcoming one. Yeah.
Hey, Nicholas, how about you? What are some of your last thoughts?
I think for myself, I better speak a little bit on the technology side of the things. Technology is evolving on a day-to-day basis, and it's very important for us to learn to leverage on technology instead of competing with technologies. Having to say so, consumer, the way they actually interact with us actually is changing every now and then. And the platform that actually used to reach out to us is also changing every now and then, like the Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And the technology that we use to actually engage with them is also evolving on a day-to-day basis. So it's very important for us to really embrace and pass this technology involvement to the expert like KW, like the tech team, where they actually look into it on a day-to-day basis. And I'm so excited to really bring this shift of mindset and how we can basically use it together and conquer, bringing more associates to KW.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing, Nicholas. How about you, Mariah? What are some of your last thoughts and last advice?
I want to just share something inspiring from Sean Accor. So, there's research to show that optimistic salespeople are 26%, more successful than the average, right? So, and then, as Christine was sharing, some of us are a bit more pessimistic. And he was saying it's literally like your DNA. Your brain can literally be genetically positioned when you're born that you might be a bit more pessimistic, but we can actually change our brain. It's amazing. So he was saying specifically to change from optimistic to, from pessimistic to optimistic. One thing you can do, you can start today, is this idea of being thankful, thinking of things you're thankful for. But he said, it's not just, maybe you tried this before. It's not just, okay, I'm thankful for this and that. It needs to be something new that you never thought of before. So you have to take time. He was saying every day for 21 days, you think of 3 things that you had not thought of before, in every 24 hours that you are thankful for. It could be very small, it doesn't matter. But to force your brain to think of something you're thankful for, it will literally change your brain. You will become more optimistic. You will become more successful. It's so, win-win lah. Go for it.
Right. Thank you for sharing, Mariah. Now, how many of you are learning something from this morning session? If you are learning something and you have some aha, share in the chat box, or at the same time, express your gratitude to our panelists here who went through burn the midnight oil so that they can actually go through this whole process and share those insights with you in a very quick snapshot, right? Please express your gratitude on the chat box, and please share some of the ahas that you are getting from this session today. How many of you are learning something? If you're learning something today, please say yes. If you're learning something from this morning session, please say yes. Right. Now, the last thing I would advise everyone is to think about putting aside a time to participate in some of these events that we have. Now, we know it's a paid event, but I always think that in order for us to experience the best thing in life, it costs us something. It's either time or money, and this is time and money. I will encourage all of you to participate in the next event in Mega Camp. Our virtual support, can you please share the link again on the chat box so that everyone can get into Mega Camp and start thinking about would they register and ask questions to your market center leadership or the regional team so that we can help you sign out. And when we are in this Mega Camp or this family reunion together, we are always in a community, we are always in the chat room, we are always boasting what we're having for supper or makan or whatever, right? So it's a community that we are part of as well as we are going through this journey. So I encourage all of you to consider, and you can actually buy a ticket and 10 of you go to a house and just watch on TV or watch on the screen together. That's also an option for you to consider doing. Be creative about it, share costs, and see what happens, right? I encourage you, and I think that you will benefit from some of these events that we have that is international and world-class, that most organizations out there in our industry don't do anything like this in this level. So you are missing out a lot if you're not sharing, right? So thank you so much, guys, for being part of this conversation. Thank you, Mariah, Christine, and Nicholas, for being here and taking your time off. Thank you for sharing your insights. I hope everyone enjoy this session today. We will see you at the next session next week. Thank you so much and take care.